Hi, everyone. I'm Kotaro from IIT Hyderabad. And today I'd like to talk about, sorry, I'm supposed to speak in Japanese. 皆さん、こんにちは。片岡と申します。
Hello, everyone. My name is Kataoka. So today I'll be talking to you about the Indian top-notch talents and their potentials. So the slide is in both Japanese and English. So I do believe that the English speakers here with us today will be able to understand my slides. First of all, the Japanese and India, when we think about the difference, so how complementary are us? So I would like to give you some examples today. For example, when we work in work and when if something is challenging and asked if it is possible to conduct or not, and both Japanese and Indians answer yes, but the meaning of their yeses is what I'd like to talk about. Yes for Japanese is accountability for results, and their thinking behind that is that failure must be avoided. So they are very careful in saying yes. In comparison, Indians, yes, has the mindset that challenging ourselves is important and failure is okay as long as it leads to success ultimately, and challenging ourselves is important. So the meaning of yes is different. And also the Japanese yes. So what does success mean? What do we do towards success? And what about the schedule? How frequently should we update reports or status? So that our partners or collaborators will not worry. So that is what is on Japanese people's minds when we answer yes. But for Indians, speed is important, and speedily embarking on a plan is important. And when changes in plans and deliverables, you shouldn't panic when that happens. So don't be panicked. It was a comment that I heard in the panel discussion earlier. But even if we face change, we shouldn't panic. And towards the optimal result, and maximum efforts must be conveyed. So that is the Indian yes. So these differences, this is not either good or bad, but complementary. I believe this could be complementary. So carefulness, being meticulous, or speediness, and the spirit of challenging ourselves. How can we combine those together towards co-creation of innovation? I think that is the key. So choosing the good parts from Japanese and Indian ways of thinking and ways of behavior. By doing so, I think a higher value of innovation is what we can generate, and that is my expectations. That I hope is what we see. So, top-notch talents. So, as a faculty at a university, I have had students under my care whom I'd like to introduce to you a little bit today. For Japanese companies, especially, they have hired students, and how many, and I'd like to give you an example of students who have very much exerted their potential. And this is an example of two students hired by Suzuki Motor Company, Vipul and Parathusha. And what is interesting about their cases is that after entering the company, they convinced their bosses, because the university has this kind of interesting research, and this let's go into joint research with the university is what they approach, and they approach their bosses with such projects. And so that's not something that I initiated. They were the ones who did it, and it seems that within the Japanese graduates that were hired in Japanese companies, these type of people are rare. So a very open mindset, and they are always thinking about the combination of interesting things that they might be able to combine. So IIT Hyderabad and Suzuki Motor Company, we have a lot of joint researches that are running under these two students, former students initiatives. And what we often hear is that Indian students probably aren't ready to join Japanese companies because they probably don't speak Japanese. But actually, these two, after they joined Suzuki Motor Company, they've and it's only been 1 or 2 years, but they learned Japanese, and they are working as interpreters in internal meetings as well. So they're two very unique students, former students, and these are not Japanese examples of Japanese company recruits, but the fruits of these students' research have been used in Japanese companies or as a portion of a Japanese tech solution. So it could be a new technology or a new software. So not just creating one and leaving it at that, but how resilient students are in delivering that to the actual industry is what is unique. Especially for these undergraduate students, I've known them for I think 1 or 2 years, but even under 2 years, they created a blockchain technology from scratch to an extent, a level in which it enticed Japanese companies, attracted Japanese companies to the level that they wanted to implement that. And so, as to working with these students, I'm very much enjoying the collaboration with them. And so, for Indian top-notch, especially high-level talent, how do we acquire and hire them? This is actually not very easy to do. In particular, for Japanese companies to approach Indian universities directly, in doing so, I think there are a lot of difficulties they face.
For instance, they may have to depend on some HR agencies because the hiring system or the schedule and the rules in India are so different from that of Japan. It's very, very different. That's why, unless you know the rules and systems, it's difficult to adjust. Especially in India, those top-notch students would be approached by various different companies. Many of them wants to hire the student. So for instance, when you're going to do an interview, when would you get the slot for the interview? Who would be the competitors would be the key. And it's often those global multinationals or some other competitors from Japan. And the first come, first served would be the system. So you have to really adopt to that new way of hiring process. And that's difficult for a lot of Japanese companies. And also, the time for such interviews are really limited. And how can you actually hire good students or find out the goodness of a student during such limited time? That's also difficult. Therefore, I'd say that especially in addition to joining the campus hiring activity, it's very important to do the internship to attract or hire good students. That's what I always say. Still yet, even if you're going to hire students through the campus activity or through the internship, you need to know the structure mechanism of the Indian universities and what kind of students are there. And there's not much opportunity to know about them. And especially at IIT Hyderabad, together with JETRO and JICA, we're holding this Japan Day every year. This year again, on September 24th and 25th, we are holding this Japan Day, and it's going to be a very fulfilling program. We are now preparing. So please utilize this as well to get to know more about the students and also to have the occasions to try or hire students by combining the internship as well. And I hope that would lead to the acquisition of good students. And furthermore, hiring students are one thing, but also making use of them after hiring is also important. You have to have the boss who can really draw out the good potential of the Indian students. Do you have such bosses? If you have your branch in India already, it may not be such a problem, but a lot of Japanese companies who never hired people overseas may have trouble. They may be having this boss who is in Japan who would be evaluating such students. So they are also important. So that would be all from me. If you have any question, or you can even send me email too. Thank you.